Hello all. This is again based on a request on a YouTube video, and I know these are kind of going the same. We are talking about the same thing from the last video and this video also, but we'll try to do this quickly because we have already done from Business Central 14 to Business Central 21 a data upgrade. So, as of the previous video, I have a similar database where there is one custom extension installed, and that is here, extension management. One extension installed which have some table extension and page extension, like you can see these demo fields here which have data in all the companies. And then just for the demo purposes, I have created multiple companies in this particular environment. Three that comes from Microsoft product DVD and three new companies that I've created. And then there is surely a demo table as we saw yesterday, which I can't see right now, but it's there. I can show you once the upgrade is completed. So now let's quickly go through what we did yesterday, and we'll just move a little bit faster on it this time. So I'll close this and I'll take you back to the Microsoft documentation, whose link will get updated in the first pinned comment of this video. So you can always check that later. So you're targeting Business Central 22, which is 2023 release wave 1, and this is an upgrade of unmodified KL application to Business Central version 22. And these are the steps as we saw yesterday, and we'll go through it as a while. But again, I'll remind you that before going anywhere, make sure that you check the Business Central data upgrade compatibility matrix, and this will also be updated in the pinned comment. Now we are upgrading for version 14 and our target version is version 22. Currently I'm doing it on a CU35 Business Central 14 database. So I'll come down there to CU35 and I can go, as we talked about yesterday, to 22.0 or higher. So I can go to any version of 22 at this point from this release. The person who asked a question was talking about Business Central 14.40, 41, which is cumulative update 40. You can also go directly to 22.0 or higher if needed. So make sure you check this before you start your data migration. Otherwise, there will be issues during migration. Okay. So let's open our PowerShell and let's start utilizing the similar kind of script. One more thing before we start, I have already placed the files that we created yesterday in this repo called data upgrade in my GitHub, whose link is also available in the pinned comment. And there's this folder for BC 14 to 21, which contain two scripts, one for step 1 and another for step 2. I'll just create a new folder here for today's video where we are going from Business Central 14 to Business Central 22 so that you can follow that. For Business Central 22, I have the service running called BC220 dev, which currently have only one company at this moment because this is just mapped to the demo database from Microsoft. So we'll utilize this service instance for this video. Okay, so what I've done is I've cloned this Git repo and I'll just copy this so that we don't spend same time into it, and we just quickly do that. Okay, and I'll call it as BC14 to BC22. The script will typically remain same, but because people get confused sometime, let's rename them also here if that helps you. Okay, so as you know, the step 1 script is supposed to be run on BC14, so we will open up our PowerShell and load the step 1 PowerShell command module, or the folder that we have, the file that we have. Okay, so BC14 to 22 is step 1, and this contains the same detail as we had yesterday. I have, for clarity's sake, what I've done is I have created a variable, and let me zoom this in, which is called server instance, and that's pointing to my current BC140 server instance. and this will import the module as we talked about. This will uninstall all the extension, this will unpublish all the extension, and this will remove the symbols and then stop the service. As we looked into the article yesterday, I'll again remind you that read through it because there is one or few of the steps which are very important. The first one is what is that? Okay, data encryption. So make sure you disable the data encryption by searching data encryption in Business Central 14 for each company. And if a customer is using it, disable it, and you can enable it after the upgrade. Then we'll be following these commands. What the first one is to uninstall all the extension, which is this command. Then we'll unpublish all extension, which is this command. And then we'll unpublish all symbols, which is here, and then we'll stop the service instance. So without wasting any time onto it, let's go back and try to run this as it is. So I'll save this and I'll run it. Hopefully it works. So it loaded the module, it uninstalled all the apps, it restarted the service, and everything is done on Business Central 14. So we're good with BC 14 to 22 step 1. Now let's open up our second file, which is step 2, which you can't run everything together. So you'll have to define those steps as they needed. So I'll change this to BC 220. My database name is changed to BC 22. My server is this is this, and the database name is this. And I'll see that I also created a new folder here for this. And every BC210 will now convert to my server instance, which I'm using as BC220 dev. So what I'll do is I'll just copy this and I'll do a control H, which is a replace, and I'll replace BC210 with all the findings with 220 dev. I'll replace all, and that should do everything. Okay, so let's quickly understand what we are doing here. And I can't run it like this. I'll have to close PowerShell because I have already loaded Business Central 14 module into it. So let's close it. And let me reopen my PowerShell here. Okay. And let me open the same file that I have right now. Oh yeah, here it is. So the first thing is importing the module of Business Central target version, which is 22 in this case. Then converting the database to the newer version, which is 22 in this case. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to run all these commands from invoke conversion to setting up service tier. So what we are doing here is we are setting up the parameters on the service, and the parameters are database server, database instance, and database name. And then we also set the destination app for migration, which sets the references of the base and the system application on your service tier. Then we disable the task scheduler and we start the service instance, and then we load the license. And once we load the license, that will require the restart of the service. So we do that here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select this whole set and run it together. So if everything is in place, this all should run together. The message to convert the database, remain as it is. Let's do a yes and start processing those requests that I want it to process based on our needs. In this case, setting up those service tier, and there's an error message. Okay, so let's see where it started. Unable to locate the server instance. And what is the server instance name? BC220 dev. I guess that was my instance, but let me just verify. Oh, it was not BC220 dev, it was BC22 dev. My bad. So let me copy this, do a control H and make it as BC22 dev. It was not 220, my bad. Let's do a replace all. Done. We're good there. And if everything goes well, because it did convert the database, so that is not the problem, I just need to set the service parameter. So this time I'll select it here and let it run. And let's see what happens as it kind of moves through. If everything goes well, these all commands will execute and I'll be able to move forward from that point. But just give it a minute and it should be over in a while. Okay. And the service got restarted. Now we'll try to import the license, and then after importing the license it will also have to restart the service tier that it have. Okay, so the service got restarted. Now we're good with the basic step of setting up services, and now we'll proceed with the other basic steps that we have. So let's see what those are. Okay, so now as we know, we need to publish the extensions for the target version, and in this case this path will not make sense. So I actually have the DBD here, and I just need to copy this path, the root path, because rest will remain same. So what I'll do is I'll just replace this part of the application or the path to the new path that I have, so that it can point to the right path. And for my custom app, I have placed it in the same folder somewhere outside, which is this. So I'll just copy that as path and I'll just replace it here. And that's it. Once you have identified all your custom apps, all your ISV apps, and the Microsoft 3 base apps, that's all you need. The system application, the application, and application. So it'll take some time. So what I'll do is I'll pause the video after I run these commands, so that once it is done, we'll start from there. And maybe I'll also select restart once everything is done. So let's run this set, and that should go ahead and install or publish all the apps that are needed for migration of the data between Business Central 14 and Business Central 22. So I'll pause the video and I'll resume it as the restart completes, and we'll be able to see it from there. Okay, so the publish of the apps is done and the service is also restarted. So we're good with our sync step. So let's run the sync step and I'll say yes, so that it synchronizes the tenant and checks that are we doing any kind of mistakes in the data. Is there any data or any object which may cause problem in the upgrade is what's being tested in the synchronization changes. Right? It validates that the field lengths are in sync, the table properties are in sync, you haven't modified primary keys, and so on and so forth, because after this it'll start synchronizing each and every app that we have installed. So I hope that makes sense. So it's validating that you're not doing any destructive changes in Business Central 14, or you don't have the base Microsoft objects modified, if I say it from that perspective. So if you missed a customization that you had on a table, or where you have increased or decreased the field length of a Microsoft field, that'll caught up at this step. The other thing that you need to remember, which it will also caught up, is if you have not deleted the data from those temporary table that we talked about in the previous video, which is also listed in the common areas or common errors in the data upgrade. So once the sync is over, what we'll have to do is we'll have to synchronize each and every app. And as you can see, this is the version for 21.4. I'll need to get the latest version of these apps based on version 22. For that, like we did last time, I'll just open a separate PowerShell. This is being loaded, and I'll just copy this line so that I'm able to run the commands. I'll come back here and I'll paste it here so that we load the command. And now to check details about our apps, what we need to do is we need to do a get nav app info with a path of that app. Now, as we talked about in the earlier video, and there's nothing that you have to go and watch earlier video. Till now, all the apps from Microsoft have the same version. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick the application app source, which is this file, copy it as a path and paste it here to get the details about this app. So when I run this, I'll see that the version of this app is listed here, which is 21.0, 5454517, or 54157, and 55195. So I'll just copy this and we'll utilize this version in our new PowerShell script here. So I'll replace it like this, I'll replace it like this, and I'll also replace it like this. My custom app is version at 22.0. So all the apps that we published, now what we are trying to do is synchronize these apps. Now let's run this set and we'll talk about it. So what a sync step does, it checks that the app that you are loading, these apps that you have published now will be uh, reviewed against the current data that you have in the system, and is it making any destructive changes or not. It becomes more logical when you get into an AL to L upgrade, because that's where it's comparing it to the previous version. And this, I'm pretty sure behind the scene Microsoft is trying to compare this with the object set that you have from within 740. It is just trying that the apps that you're loading is compatible with the cumulative update that you are from. So when I said about uh, the compatibility matrix of your upgrade, this is where it gets checked. So here it is checking that do you have any changes in the objects from Microsoft in BC14. Here it is checking that are you using the right cumulative update, and if you are not, then the system app of this version may not have the fields which were there in that cumulative update, and then it'll cause an error message. So that's why the synchronization of apps is important, because at that point it checks that the previous version of your app and the newer version in app are only making additive changes in the schema of tables. And if there are destructive changes, the sync fails. So I'm pretty sure that if you get an error around your table uh, field is deleted and all so on and so forth happens here, which technically tell you that you have not seen the compatibility matrix, and you are upgrading it to an non-supported target version. So this step will tell you. So we'll give it some time. It may take some time because based on how big the database is, and then we will move forward, which are pretty simple after that. Now, as we are waiting here, let's also change the version here for installation of the application app. So we'll just copy it here and we'll paste it here, and I'll walk you through around this, what are these steps as we move forward. Now in the same way, let's also change this path to 220. So we are good here, and we'll come to this part at the end. That'll be just the end of the migration. So we'll wait for sync to over, and once it's over, I'll resume the video. Okay, so our sync step is over. Let's start the data upgrade, and we'll run this. And as we have talked about it, as soon as you run the data upgrade, it seems that it is completed, but it is actually not. It just goes behind the scene and start running it. So what you have to do is you have to search for a command called get nav data upgrade, and here on the progress you can set the server instance name, which is bc22dev for me, and then when you run it, after defining an interval which is 10 seconds, it'll show you the progress that it is making with the data upgrade. So when you run the startnet data upgrade, don't just assume that it is over because it's showing you the cursor on the next slide. Make sure that you check the get data upgrade, nav data upgrade step with the progress option to progress at a certain interval of time. For me, it's 10 seconds. If you want to do it earlier, you can do that. You just keep on refreshing the status of your upgrade. And if you want to check everything that happened in a detailed manner, then you should be using the detailed mode with the service instance and detail, and show you which steps has been run and which has been not yet executed. If you end up in an error message during the upgrade step, then using the same command, you can choose the error only and check this boolean error only with the server instance, and it'll show you the errors that has been caused in the data upgrade process. So one command can do multiple things for you. It's based on your need. You will run these uh, different options that are available. So data upgrade is already 66% done, and I'm pretty sure it should run faster now, and it should complete anytime. Now once that is done, the system application and base application during the data upgrade step automatically get installed, whereas the application app need to be installed manually. So we'll just install that app, and then we'll upgrade our custom app. So before we go there, let's see the detailed, and let's key in the server's instance, and let's do an insert, and then do a pipe without grid view. Now what this option does, it shows you the execution step of each and every code that has been run, or function or method that has been run during the upgrade process, and for which company and how long it took, and the state. If there are errors, they'll also show you here. And then the different application that it is running for, base application, system application, and all. Hope that makes sense. Let's move ahead and do the install and upgrade of our custom app. The first command will install the application app onto the environment. The second command will upgrade my custom extension. Because it's an extension, I also have to run the upgrade command, and that brings it there. The next part is to update the control item. So let's just select this piece and let's run it. That's done. Now the last part is setting up the application version. But before we do that, let's go back and see our um, business central environment and see how it looks like. So I'm here, and if I'm not wrong, oh, I'm on some other environment. So let me change it to dev and see what pops up. Okay, maybe it is PC220 dev at the instance level, so don't mind that. Here it is. I can see Kronos USA, and it is still refreshing if you see it. So it's still working on it, and once it is over, it sees which database it need to connect to and what's the state. We'll be able to see the companies that are there, all of those in this particular browser tab. So it got refreshed, and now I can see the company selection option, which shows me all the companies. And if I go into the customer section, I can see that I should have my custom fields as it is, because I have also upgraded my custom extension during this upgrade process. So when I come here and I open a customer, I should be able to see that my data attached to those demo field also came forward as it is, as you can see here. If you go into extension management, you will be able to see the extension, which will be 3 extensions from Microsoft and one of our custom extension that we have. So 3 from Microsoft and one is for the demo that we just had. But now let's go into the help and support, because that's where things will not be correct. And that will explain you why this application version update. So if you look at it, the version says US Business Center 22.0. The platform, which is executable, is 22.0, but the application still points to 14.36, which was my CU35 or Business Center 14, which may give a misleading information to a consultant or a customer or even a developer for that matter, because that's where people come to check the version. So what you do, you need to set the nav application. Now because it is CU0, as we talked about in the yesterday video here in the compatibility matrix, you can technically check the application version by going into these hyperlink of these specific CUs. But because I'm trying to upgrade to CU0, I don't have that luxury because that is not released as a CU. It comes as a separate area where it gets published. So what I'm going to do is I already have a service BC220 which is pointing to a Cronus Business Central 22 environment. So what I'm going to do is instead of set app nav application, I'm going to find a command to do a get nav application. And here I'm going to point it to the service that is actually connected to Business Central 22.0. When I run this, I should see, okay, there's no endpoint listening to that. And why is that? PC220 is my service not running. Let me just check. It is running. But I can't do a get nav application to BC220, which makes no sense. Let me see. Okay. Incorrect address of or soap action. Okay. So then what other option I have to get the application version is log into that particular environment where I know that BC is running. So what I can do is I can change this URL to point to BC220, which I have configured as username password for other purposes for API series that you can see on the channel. And that's why I didn't use the default instance because I have configured it with nav username and password. So now if I go to help and support of this, I can see that the application version for this particular should be this. So I can just copy it from here and paste it in here where I need it. Then once you set the application, you have to run the sync, you have to run the data upgrade, and then you have to set up this solution version details into it. So as we know, data upgrade can be a little bit funky because it doesn't execute exactly at the same time. So we'll only select these three, the sync completed, the data upgrade started, and it says you cannot start it because there are active sessions. Because if you remember, we tried to log into that environment, and I guess that's the problem. But what you can do, and I have closed it, but it doesn't recognize that it has been closed, is I can skip user session check. This will ignore if there are any sessions connected, and this seems to be completed, but let me see. App data upgrade, progress, and let's run this. Oh, it's completed. The last but not least step is to set this, and let's set this, which is setting up the extension, base extension key into your service tier. And once everything is done, I should be good to go. So let me restart it once so that we can then try to log into our environment, BC22 dev, and let's restart the environment. Now people who haven't watched the previous video and directly watching this, I'm not missing any step as I'm talking through it. So we saw that these were the Business Central 14 command. Then if you read, it says convert the application database to Business Central 22, which we did here on the invoke command, which is this command. And then if you read through it, it talks about setting up the service configuration, which we have done all of those in the same order as they were there. Setting up different configuration, disabling task scheduler, restarting the service, importing the license, and restarting the service. Then it said publish the extension in a particular order, starting from application, then base application, and then the Microsoft application. And we have done it here, the publish area. Once you have done, it says publish the new version of extension that you want. So I just installed the custom extension also, or publish the custom extension. If you are from India localization, you'll also have to publish these in the same order. Then you restart the service, which we have done here. Then you synchronize the tenant, which we have done here, which is this command. and then it says synchronize the apps in the same order: the system application, the base application, and any custom application, which we have done here. If you are again from India localization, you also do these steps for these apps, and then you run the data upgrade, which we have run here. Then for each extension, you also have to, as in first you have to install the application app, and then if you are from India localization, you will also install these two apps. And if you have custom apps like I started my nav app data upgrade, which is here. Again, for India localization, there are some additional steps for these apps. Then we have installed the third party application, which is none at this point. And then you update the control add-in, which we have done here. And at the end, we were doing the change application version, which we have done here. Setting up the application version, changing the solution, assigning the solution ID, and so on and so forth. Okay. So as we have seen this, let's quickly head up into our Business Central environment called BC22 Dev. Once I do that, and now if I go to my help and support, I'll be able to see that my application version has been set, and the customer users or the consultant or other developers in your organization are able to fetch the right information by going into help and support. And that's the intention of this last step, to make sure that your application version is set correctly and your help and support page is up to date. So now if you look at it, this is the application version and this is the right platform version that we wanted for this particular project. Okay, so a quick recap, you know from where you can get the access of these particular apps. So, these PowerShell commands, which is from my GitHub page. But let's quickly summarize what we have done, or what you need to keep in mind. The upgrades from Business Central 14 to any Business Central version, higher version, the steps are more or less same. There are technically no different steps based on different version. You just need to make sure that you follow them into the right order. What is the order? In Business Central 14, you remove every extension that you have installed, including the symbols and other apps that you have. Once you have done that, you invoke the conversion of your database to Business Central 22 in this case, but 21 or 20 if needed. And once that conversion is done, then you set up the service tier with the right database name, the service name, and all. Once that is done, you start publishing the newer apps that come with the target version, and then you synchronize the tenant, then you synchronize each of the app. Once the sync is over, you run the data upgrade. Once the data upgrade is over, you install the application, any custom extension that you have, then you update the control add-in, and at the end you make sure that you set the application version of it. After this, you need to enable the task scheduler, which we disabled in the beginning, and you also need to enable the encryption if the customer was using it before you upgraded the database. Hope that clarifies your question to the person who have asked this question in the comment, and I'm able to answer your question as wanted. Again, I'm not going to request you to subscribe to the channel. I know if you like the content, you will automatically subscribe to the channel, and there's a lot more that's coming into this channel around Business Central. So stay tuned. Keep visiting the channel. If you don't want to subscribe, it's up to you, but then keep visiting the channel to get new information about new topics that we'll be covering. If you learn something new, do share this video with your colleagues and community members so that they also learn it. And if you like the content, then just hit the like button, guys. And I'll see you next day with the next video on Business Central. Have a great day. Thank you.